I think in each and every one of our industries at the moment, time is such an important factor. Every millisecond matters, and I think what we're seeing right now with the pace of AI and the speed at which things are evolving, we're moving at an incredible pace. There was a time, and I've been around long enough to have seen lots of technology transitions where something will come along, and we as IT leaders would have a little bit of time to digest what it meant. How are we going to put it to place in our organizations? How are we actually going to enable our employees? How do we work out what we're actually going to do with the technology? Things are shifting every hour. Things are shifting every 24 hours. It's very difficult for every IT leader or any business leader right now to kind of tackle this. And speaking of leaders who know how to do this, I'm delighted that we've got a leader who's done this across multiple times across Cisco. So please join me in welcoming Gordon Thomson, who's Cisco's EMEA President. So, Gordon, why don't you join us? As you speak to leaders across the EMEA region, and I know you travel around and there's different maturity levels. They all want to move at speed. I know we hear that consistently, but there seems to be a disconnect between that sort of reality of how many of them are actually getting ROI and actually doing something at scale with it, and share a little bit more about how you see that playing out.
So what we've seen, I think, is kind of the AI reality gap. It's great that there are some organizations here leading the way, and thank you for doing that. Some organizations leading the way, believing that they've really built a robust strategy and are now beginning to robustly execute against it. But the vast majority, unfortunately, don't have the strategy yet or haven't been able to work out how to robustly execute against it. And I think we should spend a bit more time today talking about that.
Yeah, we should. And I think it's a perfect example of actually every audience you speak to now in terms of, there's a variety of maturity levels in terms of what organizations are doing. And I think F1's a really good example, and why we chose to host this event here, because it's the perfect example of where to try and close that gap, it's not just about one thing. It's not a single sort of silver bullet that can solve it. It's a myriad of things that organizations need to get right, whether it's around data or whether it's around the telemetry they're getting, the real-time decision-making, the infrastructure that underpins things, as we heard in the video earlier. And actually, every lap is a learning moment, and what used to take a season for a F1 team to learn, now they get all of that telemetry, all of that learning done in a race weekend as well. So things are moving at pace, and I think enterprises also see that same pace. I think everybody's trying to grapple with moving at speed as well. So I think I'm going to leave it to you, Gordon, to unpack a little bit more about what you see happening, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks again.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you, Chintan. What I'd like to try and do is just give you a perspective around how we think we can find ways to close that gap. In my mind, I like to have structure in terms of how I approach things like this. And so we've tried to lay that structure down into 4 key areas for you to think about in your organization around how you can exploit that, how you can take advantage of it, how you can move faster, how you can do what McLaren do, race that car around the track and not have to wait days to understand what's going on, being able to react in milliseconds as to what's going on to change the game. And fundamentally, from our point of view, I see that laying out in 4 areas, which I'd like to cover with you, if that's okay. The first of those is time. Time is oh so precious to every single one of us. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't buy it. You can't rewind it. You can't pause it. And for me, I think time for all of our organizations is our greatest competitive advantage as we move forward. But I also am concerned. I also believe that it's probably going to be our biggest challenge as well, in terms of our ability to move at the pace we're going to have to move at. I feel certainly in my role now, I'm having to move at breakneck speed. I'm not convinced that I can continue to operate at the speed I'm being asked to operate. I am constantly being asked to make decisions quicker than I've ever had to make them before, sometimes with less data than I've ever had before to make those decisions. And you probably are all feeling the exact same way. And the reality is, why is that happening? Well, it's happening because the markets are moving faster. Supply chains are changing and shifting. The geopolitical events that are happening in the world are happening all the time. I stood on stage at Cisco Live in February, and Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be standing up here 3 months later mentioning something called mythos, right? And the world has changed fundamentally. And all of that means we're having to think and we're having to adapt and we're having to approach things differently than we've ever done before. You know, just even in the last week, you can see that the US government are heavily involved in thinking about how we use AI in our organizations and are thinking about how they pass laws in terms of impacting that. In the last week in China, you've seen DeepSeek, an organization with 150 employees who have been around for no more than 2 years, raise $7 billion in funding. It makes the worth of that company already $50 billion with 150 employees. Think about that. That's the pace of change that we need to make sure we can take advantage of within our organizations. The one thing for me that's really clear, we cannot stand still any longer. We have to move at a different pace than the pace that we've been moving at. And the question for all of us is, can we? Can we move at a different pace? Can our organizations move at a different pace? That's the question I think we have to ask each other, because the way we've operated in the past cannot be the way we want to operate in the future. The other thing to think about is hitting the accelerator pedal. Trying to move faster as an organization doesn't just create more opportunity for you. Guess what? It creates more risk for you. Right? It's creating more risk for you in terms of the way that you run and operate your businesses. And, you know, we're seeing threats move at a much faster pace now than ever before. And what Mythos is going to bring to the table is only going to accelerate that. And when you look at the data around the exploit gap in the market, we're now at a point where that's running at -1 day. -1 day. So the fact that in one instance, you know, we disclose a vulnerability. The bad actors are finding a way to exploit that quicker than we're finding a way to patch it. And even after we find a way to patch it, on average, it's taking organizations 55 days to deploy the patch. Your organization cannot be exposed candidly for 55 days moving forward. It just can't. And therefore, if we think that we're going to continue to build our infrastructure in the way that we've done in the past, I think we're running into a place where we're going to be exposed as businesses, and we need to think differently in terms of how we move forward. So there's a lot to contend with, right, in terms of how we think about time. But the key thing, I think, for us around time is recognizing that this requires us to change. It requires us to think differently, and it requires all of us as leaders to help our organizations recognize that this change must happen, and it must happen quickly. Now, since we're at McLaren, let me touch the accelerator slightly more for you and throw something else into the mix, if you don't mind. 85% of organizations around the world believe that they are going to see a major expansion in their business around the use of agentic AI over the next 24 months. But at the same time, 73% of those organizations do not believe that they have got the infrastructure to support that increase. Some of the data you'll hear later on about the impact of AI agents on the network are staggering. And the reality is, in today's world, traffic used to really flow from the edge to the center and back again, and this is not the way traffic's going to be flowing anymore, as you've got agents all operating at the edge of your network, all talking to each other instantaneously every minute of the day. The reality is, you know, we're going to see at least a 3x increase in traffic utilization potentially over the next few years to be able to deal and accommodate with AI agents operating in our networks. And in most instances, the infrastructure that we've deployed isn't going to be able to support those needs of the future. And so we have to think about how we adjust to be able to support agentic AI as we bring it into our organization. We're going to be able to have to move at a faster pace. And that brings me to the second pillar of how we exploit this AI reality gap. And that's the pillar called talent. The talent that is in your organization that's going to help you move at the pace you need to move at moving forward. Because You may be the driver of that team as the leader, but at the same time, you can only move as fast as your team can move. And your talent needs to move at a faster pace than it's moving at today. Talent. Talent means something different now, however, I think. Historically, I thought of talent as you and me, hopefully, but people, right? I thought of talent purely as people. I simply no longer believe that that's true. I think agentic AI is absolutely changing the definition of talent for you and me in our organizations because it can reason, it can plan, it can act. Your team, your talent is now part human and part agent. The highest performing organizations that we have won't simply have the best people in them. They will build the best teams where humans and AI agents work together, where AI agents don't replace human potential, they unlock human potential. This is going to demand a cultural shift in every organization, and that starts at the top, that starts with you, that starts with our leaders, in terms of how we're going to empower our people to work differently as we move forward. We have to move from working in a world where the key job of our talent was to operate into a place where the key human talent that we have is in a supervisory mode, unlocking, what needs to be unlocked through the use of their human intellect when human intellect is valuably required. And there will be a shift significantly from human intellect being used to drive operations within our business. Technology teams need to rethink how work gets done in your organizations, because at the heart of this is we know technology teams will not be able to scale moving forward as well. That's true of our organization too. And for some of you who know Cisco well, you'll know that we've already launched one product to the market that was purely built by AI agents. Our AI defense product was not built by with human intervention. It was built, the operation of it was built purely by AI. And being able to take product to market faster through things like that creates competitive advantage for organizations like us in the market space. I think that organizations that don't adapt to that, don't move at that pace, don't embrace it, I don't think they'll simply move slower in this new marketplace. I think they won't exist at all in the future. And the reality is, for me, the IT organization, the IT department, is a starting point for all organizations to be able to move at a new pace moving forward. The high value role in the organization, isn't just the driver, as Lando said earlier on. It's the race engineer, but in fact, it's the whole team. And it's the whole team embracing AI coming together that fundamentally drives that change and that shift that we all need. Then I think about the third thing that's really important for us all here. And this is the third time I'm using the word T, so you can probably bet that the fourth one starts with a T as well when we get there. But the foundational currency that we're trading in just now, and I think is more critical than it's ever been before, is the T for trust. Trust is the thing that allows you to move at a different speed in your organization. And I also believe that it's harder now to earn trust in the AI era than it's ever been before. I think there's many reasons for that, many reasons for that. But if I just spotlight security for a minute or two in terms of thinking about trust, we know that trusting too much is a security risk for all of you. The reality is we have to find the right mechanisms to challenge. But I also know that trusting not enough kills your competitive advantage and kills your competitive edge. So how do we find that balance? How do we find that balance in our organization that we can ultimately solve for, mitigating against all of these sophisticated threat actors that are coming to challenge our infrastructure now, that these attacks that are moving at machine speed, where the exploit window is less than 1 day, how do we get to a point where we can manage that more effectively as an organization? And then if I start to think about the agents that will exist in your network, I then start to think about the new challenges that we deal with there. You've got agents, you've got different identities now that you need to be able to manage and define policy against. The edge of your network, because of the use of agents, is changing, and you're creating a new front door to let the bad guys in. There's no doubt about that. But we have to find a way to secure that. We have to find a way to make sure that your organization can move at the pace you want to, but your board trusts the way you've built your infrastructure to deliver that. Your people and your talent believe that you've built the trust to allow them to operate at the speeds that they need to operate moving forward. And ultimately, your customers can engage with you at the pace and the speed that they need to, and with the intimacy that they need to in the market moving forward. For me, that creates a different mindset that we have to think about in this world today. That mindset, which has been the mindset for the last 20 years around security, which is there's an issue, let's get a product in our network to solve that issue. Let's get the best product in the market to put that in our network to solve that issue. We can protect this, or we can secure that. The reality of today's world is I think you need something completely different from the way that we have built security into our infrastructure up until now. The world doesn't demand a product anymore. The world demands an architecture to give you full visibility of what's going on, to understand every behavior that's going on in your environment, to be able to protect at the pace you need to be able to protect at. Trust. Trust is not a security product. Trust is about ultimate control across your whole environment, while still giving you the choice that you need to make the decisions in your organization that allow you to move at the pace you need to move at. Trust, for me, isn't something that you can bolt on. Trust is foundational. It has to start. Everything you do has to start with you thinking about trust at the heart of every decision you make around technology infrastructure moving forward. That brings me to the final T. I've spoken about the need for time, for us to think about how we move faster. I've spoken about the importance of the talent in our organization and how we're going to embrace not just human talent, but agent talent as that comes along as well. And I've also mentioned that trust is the foundation to everything we're going to do. There's many elements of trust, but one element is around security strategy and how security strategy needs to evolve to be able to run differently, to protect your organizations more effectively in the future. But none of that holds up if the engine of the car is not world class. None of that holds up if it's unreliable and it's overly complex in terms of what you build as the foundation for your business. The pace of change is creating complexity. The last thing we can afford to do when we deliver and we build network infrastructure is create complexity. The stakes can't be higher for us in terms of the network, because what I know now and what I hear now every day is the network and your infrastructure is no longer a commodity in your business. It's no longer something the CEO doesn't know anything about. The CEO is beginning to realize the strategic importance of your infrastructure, the foundation to your business, the things that make applications run, the things that make you be able to use AI properly and within your businesses. And the world is beginning to recognize that the node alone does not have any power if it doesn't have a network that can connect that node. And CEOs are beginning to realize that this is really important for us as we move forward. That's creating pressure on all of us, but it's also meaning that we've got some really difficult decisions to make as we move forward. I think some of you in the room will be thinking about these things today. How do I scale this economically? I'm going to have to build infrastructure to support 3x the requirements. Am I going to get 3x the budget to do it? Probably not. How do I do that? How do I support a new workforce within my organization that includes humans and agents within a realistic cost envelope? How am I going to deal with the tokenization in my business as I move forward? How am I going to measure the cost of that as I move forward? How do I lead my organization through all of these changes? How do I make sure the IT organization is world-class to be ready to be able to drive all of this? How do I manage risk in a post-mythos world where patching is no longer a viable strategy to be able to protect your business in the long term? The technology decisions you're making today are going to dictate the competitive advantage that your organization has for the next decade. So it's critical that we probably make the right technical decisions today. The infrastructure that got you here isn't going to be the infrastructure that's going to support the need for agentic capability in your business. Some of it wasn't even built for AI. You know, I was with the CIO of a bank that will remain nameless at the moment, and they shared with me the badge of honor that they had in their network. And the badge of honor they had in their network was a 19-year-old, 4-month, 3-day, X amount of hours catalyst switch that had been running in their data center and had had zero downtime in 19 years, 4 months, 3 days, X amount of hours. You know, and we looked at it with pride to say how reliable that product is. And then we said, oh crap. The minute there's an exploitation coming through that switch, there is nothing the bank can do. And the reality is that switch needs to be replaced now. That switch needs to have modern capabilities. It needs to have a controller-based architecture to support it so that we can protect that organization the way that organization needs to be protected. And therefore, the days of us thinking differently have changed. You know, we're going from a place where the network was about connecting two paths together to a place where users, apps, agents are all negotiating real time and at scale to interact with each other. How is the network going to cope with that? We're moving where, you know, security has moved from a world of, you know, verifying the user and trusting the session to a world where every identity, every intent, and every behavior needs to be enforced real time with policy everywhere. And we're moving to a world where observability isn't something that you perform and then look at the data later. We move to a world where you need the data real time to make real time decisions, just like McLaren do on the racetrack every minute of the day. If you think about this just purely in the context of that AI agent, again, I think about it in this way, simple three-pronged way. Every agent action takes 3 things for us to do, and they happen in the very same instant. The first decision we make is a routing decision. Where does the agent want to go? What is the path to get there? The second decision we make is a trust decision. Are we going to allow the agent to go there? And then the third decision we make is a telemetry decision. What is happening? What behavior is that agent exhibiting as they do that? The reality is that isn't just 1 every minute. It's not even 1,000 every minute. The reality is this is going to be billions a day, maybe even potentially billions an hour of decisions that we're going to have to make to tie together routing, security, and observability together in this new world. 3 views of one event all happening at breakneck speed across our environments. How do we solve that, therefore, moving forward? Well, we're not going to solve it by stacking shiny new products on top of each other. No, this is not the way you build the capability you need for your business in the longer term. Putting shiny new products in your environment is probably like trying to attach or bolt a part onto a Formula One car while it's racing around the circuit at 200 miles an hour. We're not going to do that. Why would we think that just plugging another product into our network to solve a tactical solution that doesn't talk to any of the other products in the network and doesn't work as part of a fabric or part of a controller is going to solve your needs of tomorrow? Because it fundamentally isn't. We can't manage the disconnection of multiple different products in network environments anymore that cannot work, operate, or see each other together. We have to change that to be able to create the foundation for scale for AI in the future. It's only then that I think we'll be able to bridge the AI reality gap of the future. It's only then I think that you'll be building the foundations for your organizations to allow you to move at the pace you want to move at, to be able to execute on everything you need to execute on around your AI strategy as you move forward. It's not about having a brilliant race strategy, ultimately. It's not even about having exceptional drivers in your team, although I'm sure McLaren think they absolutely have got 2 exceptional drivers in their team. It's not about having incredible race engineers. It's not even about having the best engine and the fastest car. It's about how you bring all of those together. And that's fundamentally which every IT executive has to think about today. Being best in class in one area, candidly, isn't good enough for any IT organization anymore if you're going to be able to adapt to the needs of the world tomorrow. There's no point in setting yourself up to experiment around AI. You now need to execute on AI, and you have to get there at breakneck speed, and you have to get there with the confidence of your organization behind you. For me, it's not easy to navigate. It's not easy to achieve. But for me, if I break it down in a structure that says, time, what are we doing to help us move faster? Talent, what are we doing to exploit and to help her to unlock the potential of every human in our organization through the use of AI? Trust, what are we doing to fundamentally change the trust paradigm in our organization so that we can navigate this world of mythos moving forward? And technology, how am I going to build a connected, intelligent platform for the future that will allow us to go at the pace we can go at? If you get those 4 things aligned and you start to move forward with kind of common purpose around those 4 things, I'm not saying it's a perfect recipe, but I do think you have a chance for success as you move forward. And as you do that, I wish you every success as you move forward as well, continuing to execute against that AI strategy, because every organization is not going to do it without the IT organization leading the way. So with that, I'll say thank you to all of you. I think I'm going to invite Chintan back on stage, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of the day where you're going to hear from loads of different experts in so many different areas of this AI journey as we move forward. I hope you get real value out of it. Thank you so much for your time.